kind of going down, like it's a little bit downhill, and then it kind of comes up, and there's a like a sort of a highway that comes through our town, Post Falls, Idaho, North Idaho, called Southeast Way. And at the time, there wasn't very many. There was only a couple of stoplights there. Now there's a lot more. But it was a 45-mile-an-hour road, and so he has a seizure, an absent seizure, so he's not falling off his bike shaking. It's basically where you just space out, right?
Yeah,
you just spaced out for 30 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever. He's riding his bike probably 15, 20 miles an hour. And of course he always likes to ride ahead of us and like kind of show off and whatever. and him and I are probably racing each other, I'm sure. So I start to slow down, and he keeps going at 20 miles an hour.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm like, what the heck? And he's not pedaling now.
Yeah.
And he's just gliding. And I look to my left, and I see there's this huge diesel, like Mack truck that's coming. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm gonna watch. So we're all just screaming, Jesse. Of course he doesn't look back. He's totally out of it. The truck slams on his brakes, sees my brother, and is probably like super fluorescent tank top or whatever, and cool red bike, like, you know, back in the early 90s. So just imagine the rad garb that he's wearing. So at least he's visible, right?
He's got a mullet and
yeah, totally, 100%. His mullet's flapping in the wind. Yeah, so the truck stops, like screeches on its brakes. Literally, the truck misses him, like stops like 2 feet before he would have hit him, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I just think, he's not dead. And I'm not even kidding you. It's just like one of those horrible movies where right behind the truck was a Geo Metro, like a little Geo Metro going 45 miles an hour.
But that's the option I would choose.
Him.
Oh, instead of
the
truck, for sure.
Geo Metro. Totally. And the worst part of it, so the Geo Metro hits him, he blasts off the windshield, bounces off the back of his car. Of course, that guy's now screeching his brakes on.
Yeah.
And then hits the ground. So probably he went up in the air probably about 10 feet. And then the car didn't stop until about 25, 35 feet after, right?
Wow.
And so Jesse's bike is blasted into the other lane of traffic. And then he's like laying on the ground, and then he comes to, and he stands up and he starts apologizing. Like it was the most heart-wrenching thing you've ever seen. And of course, then I showed my parents that I've learned cuss words, and here they are. And right. And so I'm like, I say a few expletives. My younger brother like turns white, like vomits, like passes out. And then of course my dad runs to my brother and like grabs him and kind of pulls him to the side of the road and has him lay down again. And, you know, and then the saddest,
you don't know what his extent or extent of his injuries
did he hit his head? Exactly. What does he have spinal damage? Like there's so many things that you don't know. And then when the body's in shock, you know, like you're doing all sorts of crazy stuff and that maybe you should not be doing. Right. So yeah, man. And the worst part was then the guy gets out of his Geo Metro and hops into his wheelchair.
Oh man.
So the guy in the Geo Metro is a wheelchair. So this guy feels horrible.
Yeah.
Like the trucker feels horrible because the trucker knew he blocked basically the view, but he didn't obviously didn't do it on purpose, and he's not going to hit him. Right. So it's like, yeah, man, like it was just all around just wrong, but it was literally a miracle. It was the first like crazy miracle that I had seen my older brother endure. And now since then, my brother, it's like, he's got like, cats have 9 lives. My older brother has like 90 lives. Like what is, dude?
That's like, me.
Right? Yeah. Like I've been in some pretty bad scenarios, and I've flirted with death a few times, but like my brother's like, here, hold my beer. Let me show you how to do this. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. So, but yeah, so of course he went to the hospital, went on the gurney, went to the hospital. They checked him out, and like everything was good. He had a pretty gnarly
crazy.
He had like a pretty gnarly contusion on his elbow, and then he had like a little bump on his head. But like his elbow took the brunt of it. He was in a seizure, right, at the time. So he was totally relaxed.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what they say about like people that get in a car wreck, like
if you're
the
asleep
passenger
or you're drunk or you're
And so if the passenger is asleep or whatever, they a lot of times come out way better off than the driver.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've been in a couple car accidents and like I broke my wrist just grabbing the steering wheel.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't even that bad, right? It was like just a little fender bender. Like, dang, dude.
But how do you turn that off? You can't like.
Yeah.
If you're fully conscious, how do you turn that reaction off? You tense up. You just do.
It's free. It's your autonomic nervous system kicks in and says, "Hey, we've got this. Freeze, fight, or flight." You don't train car wrecks,
right?
Like nobody, you can't fall to the level of that training. So it's like, oh, let me run my car into a wall a couple times so I can.
Hey, can I be the dummy in the crash test dummy thing?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So that was super gnarly.
Wow, man.
And what that helped me uncover though was letting go of controlling others. Like you're like, I think oftentimes we put ourselves through so much stress because we take on the weight of other people's problems. We take on the stress of other people's bad choices. And I think it's good from an empathetic standpoint to be able to kind of see it from their perspective, but then it's horrible from a health standpoint.
Right.
If we're, trying to go through this with them, like we need to, we can go through it with them in terms of being there as a support and being there to love them. So seeing all of these kind of like gnarly things in my childhood or experiencing these gnarly experiences, I will tell you, like, set me up for success in combat. Like in combat, like, so then when you're seeing it there, it's like, hey man, this is just combat. This is just a shitty experience, a shitty time. Like, let's just do what we can do to help save this person or, help protect this person or whatever the case might be. Right.
You said you can't go a day without learning. And I can totally that's a really important thing to always be learning from your mistakes or your good things that you did. But I find that to be a really common attitude in highly successful people.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, when I was like, I don't know, like, so I've always worked hard. So the working hard kind of sometimes creates opportunities to learn, but sometimes you got the job down and then you're just working, right?
Sure.
And so you're just spinning and spinning and spinning and doing the same thing and maybe going a little bit faster at it or something like that. But there's really not any development happening or learning occurring. There's no failure that you can, learn how to recover from or anything like that. But when you learn, like you become that the constant white belt, like always a white belt mentality. It's like you come in and like I'm gonna learn from today, or I'm gonna go seek out something to learn, so I can feel stupid or dumb for a minute, so that it makes me, whether it's a better father, a better Christ follower, Christian, a better business owner, a better fitness trainer, whatever it right, a better father. Maybe I said that twice. I don't know. But like, if we're not doing that, like what happens? We become stagnant, and stagnant is actually, you're regressing. You're not
right.
Like if you're not progressing, then that means you are regressing. Like it's getting worse.
Yep.
And
That's
you're forgetting things, and you're losing skills and abilities because you're not using them and not practicing them. So. Yeah, I don't know how to not do that, but I'll tell you that there was a time in my life, if somebody didn't put a challenge in front of me, I wouldn't put a challenge in front of me, right? And so then I would just kind of, follow the path of least resistance, and that's what got me into making bad decisions over and over again, and then ultimately hitting my bottom. But then when I hit my bottom, it was like, there was these perfect beings, these perfect, and they weren't perfect humans, but their timing and their words were just like perfectly placed right after hitting bottom for me to go, yeah, damn, no, you're right. I am not a lifelong learner. I I don't have a growth mindset. I'm sort of, I have this fixed mindset. I have this idea that, no, I've got it all figured out, and, you don't have to, you're not going to tell me, how to live my life, kind of a thing. Yeah. And just putting the simple math together, it's like, well, duh, that's why you ended up where you ended up.
Exactly.
If you were seeking out people that were smarter than you, better than you, that they could have helped you. And so my big thing is my big epiphany was, what if you listened to all of the wise, and I specify wise advice, so not just any advice, but wise advice that was put into your life from day one, right? What if, and man, if we did that, we would probably be so much better off, so much further, in our past, right? Yeah. Now, fortunately, that's sort of kind of a new mantra for me, is like, okay, if wise counsel is talking to you, shut your mouth, listen to what they say, and apply it, right? Because they're not, otherwise they're wasting their time, you're wasting your time, Yeah. And so now it's like, it allowed me to turn that corner and go, hey, there are wise people in your life, and you need to open your ears and shut your mouth and start applying some of the concepts and principles that they're teaching you.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure you apply that in like a lot of different situations, one being your company Living Fit. And so can you tell me about what you guys do there and what you do for companies like Onnit and other fitness companies like that?
Yeah. So I started a gym, back when after I made my bad decision, right after I hit my bottom, I started a gym, and I grew a gym for 12 years and ended up successfully selling the gym in Southern California. And right at the tail end of like a couple of years before I sold it, I started kind of moonlighting as a teacher and educator, specifically with battle ropes. And I was given the opportunity to teach for Onnit and Onnit Academy. So I was kind of with them for a number of years, and kind of developing my curriculum. And at the same time, I started teaching for Equinox, and I started teaching for other small like boutique gyms and stuff, and just kind of travel around teaching trainers. And the beauty of the curriculum for me was, I was teaching people about metabolic pathways and metabolic conditioning. So how you can get somebody to be more powerful, or get somebody to be stronger, or get somebody to be build more endurance based off of our biology and our physiology, right? But I just did it with the tool that was a battle rope, and was able to kind of break down physics in there. And I'm kind of a super nerd, so like I go probably way too deep, so I don't want to go like too into the weeds there. But yeah, so given that opportunity, then basically Onnit had to centralize their educators, and my now wife was like, no, we're not moving to Austin. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. I can respect that.
Sure.
And so when that happened, basically I was no longer teaching for them. So I was actually trying to help out a friend of mine, Marcus Martinez. He was the kettlebell coach at the time, master coach with Onnit. And he was in the same boat. So he lived in Southern California, and at that time I was moving, and I'd moved to Northern California on a little like property, a little piece of land that I have. And so I was trying to help him out. I was like, hey, this guy doesn't have a job with Onnit Academy anymore. I think he would be perfect to help you guys out at Kettlebell Kings, because they had just started this company called Living.Fit. And in that time, I basically kind of talked about what I had been doing with my education business now, Battle Ropes Education, and kind of how I was building it out. And they're like, hey, do you want to build that out for all of our education systems?
Man. That's cool.
With Living.Fit. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do this.
That's awesome.
So negotiations and contract later. And so now I've been with them for a year and a half.
That's cool.
And we've been growing pretty steadily there. And so I would say that what we do at Living.Fit is we arm the end user all the way to the clinician and the university professor with boots on the ground education of fitness, right?
That's cool.
So like we've done both sides. We've done the academic side as well as the coaching basic training. So we want to teach people in a way that they're able to, clear the noise